Hear me? I'll tell you, ever since I was 4 years old, I have entertained, I've been in plays, I've been on the radio, and I'm shaking. So, and that's never happened to me before, so please just bear with me. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm telling you a secret. 60 years ago, my mother told me that what happens in our home stays in our home. And I was not allowed to share, no matter how I felt or what the situation I faced, with anybody. So when we look at someone's face, we have no idea what's behind it. So I'm going to tell you a story about my dad. I want to tell you that I love my dad. I've always loved my dad. But this is a true story, and I think it could be yours, or it could be the story of someone you know. Because when people are addicted, I'm the child of an alcoholic, they are into themselves. Not because they mean to be, but because that addiction makes them feel good. So good that they don't really look around and see the people that are hurting for them and through them. Okay, so I want to tell you that my dad worked for the city of Detroit. We lived in Detroit, and my mom was a waitress. Very few women worked at that time, but my mom did. And we lived in a beautiful home in Detroit. The homes were known as flats, and that was two houses. Actually, one floor was exactly the same as the upper floor. So we lived upstairs and we rented the downstairs, so we had money. I had a brother and a sister. And in 1945, my parents got the surprise of all surprises, me. My brother was 15 and my sister was 12. And my mother did not want me, and she made that very clear. But I changed it. No, it's not, I mean, she didn't want me, and I don't blame her. I don't blame her. But God wanted me. And so that turned that whole situation around. So we had a great life until I was 13. But really, trouble began before then. And not all addictions just happen today, and you're addicted. They come on for a reason. And my dad had 3 reasons why this happened to him. So anyway, I'm going to start by telling you that in 1947, when I was 2 years old, and my mother was employed as a waitress, she worked the afternoon shift, but the boss, that no one knew this, was in the Detroit Mafia. And when in the morning shift, the boss told everyone, listen, if my wife calls, I'm not here. My mother never got that message. So when the phone rang, my mother answered it and said, oh yeah, just a minute, I'll get him. Well, the internal rage in that man was something you wouldn't want and I don't want. That night, and he had planned this, I'm sure, all day, he said, hey, I'm gonna drive all of you home. Well, that was good because then your family did not have to get you. And they said, okay, so 3 of them got in the front seat, 4 of them got in the back seat. There were no seat belts. My mother sat on the lap of her best friend, and they were going home. The homes were actually just blocks away. Detroit's not a great big, I mean, it's a great big city, but it's a small area there. Suddenly, he said, the boss says to my mom, and where would you like to go tonight, Alma? And she said, well, I want to go home. I have a 2-year-old waiting for me. And he said, well, I don't think that's going to happen tonight. I'm going to take you all on the joyride of your life. He put the pedal to the metal, and he raced through the city streets with people saying, slow down, stop, let me walk. And he drove directly into 3 trees, knowing that my mom would be a missile. and he was going to kill my mother. But God had other plans. My mother did fly over the back seat of the car, or front seat of the car, out the front passenger window, and I have a picture of her body going through the window, and you may see that later if you're interested. And by inches, she missed the tree. She was severely injured, but 2 people died in that accident. The man in the middle front of the front seat and the lady in the middle of the back seat. And my mother was in traction. I don't even know if you know what that is, because I didn't know what it was. But anyway, her one arm and her opposite leg hung from the bed rails for months and months and months. And imagine the hospital bills that we're building. So she did come home, but the doctor said she would never walk again. And I can't imagine my dad's emotions. He had a 2-year-old, 2 teenagers, and a wife that would never walk again. So she came home, and they had 2 friends, wonderful people, who came every single night, 7 days a week, for almost a year, and massaged her legs. And by God's grace, my mom walked. So that meant we still had to pay a lot of bills. There were bills to be paid. So my dad sued the driver of the car, but he had a mafia lawyer. And if any of you know about the mafia, the lawyer's name was William Buffalino. He was Jimmy Hoffa's lawyer for 16 years. I can tell you that he would have scared the bejeebies out of the prosecutor. The judge said that the prosecutor needed to bring this case forward, and twice the prosecutor refused to do it. And honestly, how can I blame him? He was dead man waiting if that had not happened. So anyway, my dad sold our beautiful home, everything in it. My sister had just gotten a new piano. It was sold. We moved from that beautiful home to an 8-foot by 33-foot trailer. 6 of us. Just think about it. We had to move in the backyard of my uncle's home because we couldn't afford to do anything else. And my dad took the couch and cut it in half, and my mom slept on one half, my dad slept on the other. My brother slept in a chair in the front room, and in the back, they built a bunk bed over the double bed. My sister slept there, and I and my elderly uncle who lived with us, whom I loved, he was my best buddy, we slept together. So I slept with a guy when I was a kid. Anyway, we made it, but no one ever talked about it. So I didn't know this story until I was just about graduated from high school. I think my parents were afraid to tell it, honestly. I think they didn't know what the mafia might do at any point. The mafia can be pretty scary. So that was number 1 thing that took my dad down. In 1953, my sister and brother were married by that time, and we moved to Florida. Hip, hip, hooray. I have Florida in my heart, and I loved it there, we loved it there, but unfortunately in 1953, there was no place to work. There was no air conditioning, people didn't go to Florida, and so we didn't make it. We were there for a little over 2 years, and we had to come home. When we came home, my brother had a great job for my dad at Chrysler. For the next 2 years, we lived in heaven on earth. We got a brand new mobile home. My dad got a 1957 Chrysler Imperial. Can you even imagine? I mean, wow. And life was good. But the 1958 recession hit. And my dad was not going to be laid off, but the man ahead of him was, and he had 7 children. My dad said, I'll take the layoff. I'm so proud of him. I'll take the layoff and you continue to work. That man never lost his job. But that was the end of any time of good finances for us. We had no money, and I mean no money. We went on government assistance, and we were kind of right back where we had been before. So that was strike number 2 to my dad. Strike number 3. In August 2nd, 1959, beautiful day in Detroit, we got a call that my brother's son, and our cousin were killed in a plane crash. Well, you know what? Is there only so much you can take? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. God says that He works all things out. My dad studied for the ministry, so my dad knew that. But from that day forward, my dad became an alcoholic. I was 1 month away from going to high school. My mom said, I don't know how to tell you this, but we don't have any money to buy you any clothes. So the people in the park are going to gather clothes together so you can go to school. Those people were 40 and 50 years old. That's the clothes that I had to wear, and I was glad to have them. Now I will tell you that to this day I will not eat Spanish rice. Please don't invite me over for Spanish. I will not eat it because that's what we ate. And no one complained. I didn't complain. What were we going to do? But at that time my dad was drinking, and my mom got a job, and pretty soon nobody was home. Nobody. My dad was in the bar, and my mother was working 7 days a week to keep her head above ground as much as she could. Well, when you go to high school and you're all alone, lots of things can happen. But I had been grounded, and I said to myself, my future life is not going to be this. I'm going to go to college. Now, how am I going to do that? Nobody was going to help me. So I said, I have to be a good student. I was a good kid, which is a typical characteristic of a child of an alcoholic. So I was a good kid, and I couldn't tell the secret, which is foolish because we lived in a small town and everybody knew the secret. So we were the ones who looked stupid. We were, but I didn't tell the secret. And I just studied. I was very, very, very active in high school, very active. But boy, when it was study time, I studied. Now, during this time, pretty soon I get a driver's license, and I become the person that has to handle my dad. So the bar would call, 2 o'clock in the morning, midnight, whatever, and I would have to go pick him up because he couldn't drive home and the bar wouldn't let him drive home. Many times he would fall by our front porch, and we lived we had the front lot in a trailer park, so people drove by. I'm in high school. These are my friends. Do I want people to see this? Do I want to see it? No. Help Dad get up, help him in the house. I was alone a lot, so the bill collectors called. We're going to shut off your electricity. We're going to shut off your phone. We're going to take your home. We're going to pick up your car, whatever. And as a young teenager, that is scary. We've already been through all of that. How are we going to do it now? And I didn't have the relationship with God that I have now, but He had a relationship with me. And I'll tell you, it's amazing and it's a miracle. When I was a senior in high school and they named the honor students, now I knew I had to be an honor student because I had to get a scholarship. I was shocked when they called my name as valedictorian of my class. I'm not telling you because that makes me special. I'm telling you that makes God special. That was God's gift to me so that I could go to college. I was accepted at the University of Michigan, which if you're an Ohio State fan, I don't like you. I'm sorry. Michigan is a really good school. And they called me into the financial aid office, and God set this up. She said to me, I kind of know your story, and I want you to know that we are going to give you a job as a resident advisor to pay your room and board. We are going to offer you a scholarship to pay tuition for the remainder years of your school. We are going to give you $250 a semester to do anything you want to with it. Now, if that's not gifts from God, I don't know what is. Amen. Those are miracles to me. So I got through college, and in my junior year, another miracle. But they called me into the dean's office, and they awarded me the Michigan Business Education Student of the Year. Well, that opens doors, folks. That opens doors. Then, in my senior year, I got called into the dean's office, and God arranged for me to receive the National Business Education Student of the Year award. And I'm going to tell you, I could have had a job anywhere. And that had nothing to do with me. That had everything to do with God. So when I got the job, I said to my mom, we're leaving. I've had it. I can't do it anymore. And I know you can't do it anymore. You've worked 7 days a week. You have done little or nothing else than work. I've finally got money. I've got a job. I'm going to take you to Florida. I'm going to take you to your best friend's house. And I'm going to get you a job as a waitress, find you a place to live. And I thought she was going to give me a hard time, but she didn't. She had it by that time too. And so we left. We left a note for Dad. We got to Florida, and who calls? Dad. I say to this dad that I dearly love, no, Dad, no, we are not coming home. We can't do this anymore, and Mom can't do it, and I can't do it. So several weeks passed, and I was in touch with my sister, and one day my sister says to me, I have good news for you. Dad has gone through a horrendous withdrawal, and he has stopped drinking. That was God. That was God. Prayers, prayers, prayers answered. But I'm a kid. I'm still a kid. I don't think at 21 you're anything but a kid. And I thought, oh, sure. I'm sure that's going to happen, right? It'll be just a few weeks and we'll be right back in the same routine. So I said, so Dad called, come home. I said, look, I'm not making this decision. I have a job. I'm moving. I'll ask Mom. So I asked Mom. Mom said something that just left my life a miracle. She said, I'm going home. Not because I have any guarantees of anything, but I'm going home because I stood before God's altar and said, the day I married your dad, for better or worse. What better thing can you teach your kid? And I said, Mom, you have every right to divorce. No, we're going home. And When I stood at that altar 50 years ago with Thurman, that was my one and only husband. Because my mom had instilled that in me, and it wasn't gonna change. We came home. Good news, everybody, good news. My dad never took another drink.
Amen.
Never took another drink. It's a miracle. And I wish he were standing here because I want to tell him this story. I want to tell him how proud I am of him. I want to tell him how much he meant to me. He was super intelligent and he was very wise. And when the 10 minutes he wasn't drunk, I had the best information from him ever. So I want to leave you with some things. Sorry. I did better than I thought I would. I want to leave you with a couple of things. I want to tell you, first of all, how proud I am of every one of you that are sitting here admitting that you have an addiction. I want to run out on the Monticello streets and say, let me tell you my story, and bring all those people here. Don't not come to this. Come every week and bring a friend. This was not available to us. I don't think I would have gone through 1/16 of this if this had been available. So thank God for First Christian and for this opportunity for people who need it. That's the first thing. Then if you are an addict, I want you to take your eyes off you and put your eyes on the precious people God placed in your life. The precious, precious people that he placed. One day you're not going to have them. My brother is the perfect example, 29 years old, and he was gone. Love them and know what you may have put them through, and apologize and ask them to help you get through this. And I would have been there. I would have been here every day with my dad. Second of all, I want to talk, because God really placed this on my heart as I was practicing this. I want to talk about the Georgia murders of the two kids and the two teachers. That kid is going to get probably life in prison, whatever. But that is only partly that boy's fault. That boy is angry. His mom was addicted. And his dad was out in La La Land. And you can't blame a 14-year-old for not knowing how to handle that anger. I was angry. But I had God. If you don't have God, he had me. I didn't have him. He had me. So I want you to think about that. There's kids at Wayne County High School that need Celebrate Recovery Family. They need that. Okay? And when my dad went down, Satan took over his life. Get Satan out of your life. You can do it. You can do it. I'm going to pray for everyone in this room from this day forward. Pray that this grows. Pray that we help the kids that are angry because of addiction. And God, I'm going to believe God is going to bless Monticello. Thank you very much.
Thank you.